Have you ever wondered why certain videos, certain messages, certain moments seem to find you at exactly the right time? What if I told you that you clicking on this video right now isn't an accident at all, but rather the first sign that something significant is about to shift in your financial reality? I know that might sound bold, maybe even a little too good to be true, but stay with me for just a moment, because what I'm about to share with you goes far beyond wishful thinking or empty promises. This is about understanding a powerful principle that Florence Scovel Shinn spent decades teaching, the principle of divine synchronicity, and how your consciousness actively attracts the circumstances you need most. Just 3 days ago, I received a message from a woman named Sarah. She told me that she had been struggling financially, worried about upcoming bills, feeling that constant weight of financial pressure that so many of us know too well. One evening, almost by chance, or was it? She came across a video very similar to this one. She almost scrolled past it. She almost closed the tab. But something made her pause. Something made her watch. The very next morning, Sarah checked her bank account and nearly fell out of her chair. There was $4,200 sitting there, money from a source she had completely forgotten about, a refund she never expected, arriving at precisely the moment she needed it most. Now, you might be thinking that's just coincidence, just good luck, just random timing. But what if I told you that Florence Scovel Shinn proved, through years of documented cases and real-world results, that there's no such thing as coincidence when it comes to abundance? But before we begin diving deeper into this fascinating principle, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You think about someone and suddenly they call. You need a solution and it appears seemingly out of nowhere. You stumble upon information at the exact moment you were looking for answers. These aren't accidents. These are what Carl Jung called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden connection between your inner world and outer reality. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because the fact that you're here right now, reading these words, watching this video out of millions of other options available on the internet at this very moment, suggests that your subconscious mind already knows something your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. It knows that you're ready. It knows that a shift is coming. It knows that within the next 7 days, if you follow a specific process that Florence Scovel Shinn perfected through decades of teaching, something remarkable is going to happen in your financial life. And it all begins with understanding why you're really here. Sarah's story isn't unique. In fact, 2 weeks before her experience, a man named Marcus reached out to me with something eerily similar. Marcus told me he had been lying awake at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, his mind racing with worry about bills, about his career, about feeling stuck in a job that barely covered his expenses. You know that feeling, don't you? That restless anxiety that keeps you staring at the ceiling, calculating numbers that never quite add up. In that sleepless state, almost mindlessly scrolling through his phone, Marcus found a video about Florence Scovel Shinn's teachings on abundance consciousness. He told me something fascinating. He almost didn't watch it. His thumb hovered over the screen, ready to scroll past, but something stopped him. Not logic, not conscious reasoning, but an inexplicable pull that made him press play instead. Within 7 days of applying what he learned, Marcus received a job offer that literally doubled his previous salary. Not a modest increase, not a small promotion, but a complete transformation of his financial reality. Now here's where this gets really interesting, and this is the hidden truth that most people miss entirely. Both Sarah and Marcus confessed the exact same thing to me. They almost clicked away within the first 10 seconds. They almost dismissed the message. They almost let skepticism win. But their subconscious minds, operating on a level deeper than conscious thought, recognized something their analytical brains hadn't caught up with yet. It's like when you meet someone and instantly feel you've known them forever, or when you walk into a place and feel an inexplicable sense of belonging. That's not randomness. That's your inner guidance system working perfectly. This is the journey that Florence Scovel Shinn dedicated her life to mapping out. She understood that before any external transformation can occur, there must be a shift in consciousness, a change in the internal landscape of beliefs and expectations. Your decisions in this moment, the decision to keep watching, the decision to remain open, the decision to suspend disbelief just long enough to explore a new possibility, these aren't small choices. They're the precise moments where your reality begins to reorganize itself around a new pattern. What's happening right now as you read these words is that your consciousness is being prepared for reception. Think about the impact of that. Every person who has experienced a financial breakthrough through these principles started exactly where you are now, watching, reading, wondering if this could actually be real for them. The revelation isn't in some complex formula or secret technique. It's in understanding that synchronicity has already brought you here, and that's the first domino falling in a sequence of events, already in motion. Now, I want to go even deeper into why this 7-day window is so significant, and what Florence Scovel Shinn discovered about the specific mechanics of how abundance finds its way to you when you align with these universal principles. If something about this is resonating with you, write in the comments, "I'm ready to receive." Let me ask you something that might seem simple, but is actually profound. Right now, at this exact moment, there are millions of videos on the internet, millions of voices, millions of messages, millions of directions you could have taken your attention. Yet, you're here. Out of that infinite sea of content, your eyes landed on this video, your curiosity pulled you in, and you're still reading these words. Do you really believe that's just random chance? Florence Scovel Shinn taught something that most people find difficult to accept at first because it challenges everything we've been conditioned to believe about how life works. She said that there are no accidents in the divine mind. Every encounter, every decision, every seemingly random moment is actually part of an intelligent pattern unfolding beneath the surface of what we can consciously perceive. Your presence here is a signal, a marker that something in your consciousness has already shifted even if you haven't fully recognized it yet. This is where the science becomes fascinating. What I'm about to share with you isn't mystical thinking or vague philosophy. It's based on documented principles of how your subconscious mind operates, principles that Florence Scovel Shinn observed and verified through decades of working with real people experiencing real transformations. Here's the bold truth I'm going to prove to you. Money is about to enter your life within the next 7 days. I can almost feel your skepticism through the screen, and honestly, that's healthy. You should question bold claims. But the 7-day time frame isn't arbitrary or pulled from thin air. It's rooted in the specific mechanics of how your subconscious mind processes and manifests intention. You see, your subconscious doesn't operate on logic or linear time the way your conscious mind does. It works in patterns, in symbols, in what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. When you encountered this message, your subconscious recognized something your analytical mind is still trying to figure out. It recognized an opportunity, a doorway, a moment of potential that needed to be seized. The 7-day window represents the natural cycle it takes for a new pattern of consciousness to move from the realm of pure potential into physical manifestation. This isn't guesswork. This is the hidden mechanics behind every breakthrough, every unexpected opportunity, every moment someone looks back and says their life changed in an instant. If you're drawn to this kind of deep, transformational content that actually explains how consciousness works rather than just surface-level motivation, go ahead and subscribe. I'm here creating content that helps you understand the real mechanics behind manifestation and abundance. The journey from where you are now to where you'll be 7 days from now requires something specific from you. And this is where most people unknowingly sabotage their own transformation. It's not about working harder or forcing outcomes. It's about understanding the precise relationship between your inner state and your external circumstances, and how to align them in a way that makes abundance inevitable rather than accidental. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered is that the subconscious mind responds to very specific types of input, and when you provide that input correctly, the results are almost mechanical in their reliability. But there's a method to it, a sequence that must be followed, and that's exactly what I want to walk you through, because the clock has already started ticking on your 7-day window simply by you being here. If this is starting to make sense, drop a comment that says, "The pattern is revealing itself." I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're sitting there wondering if this is just another one of those videos. Another person making grand promises about manifesting money while offering nothing but vague platitudes and wishful thinking. And you know what? You're absolutely right to think that way. Your skepticism isn't a problem. It's actually a sign of intelligence and self-protection. The truth is, the internet has become flooded with people talking about the law of attraction, abundance mindset, and manifestation, without actually understanding the deeper mechanics behind how any of this works. They've taken profound spiritual principles and turned them into clickbait, exploiting people's genuine desperation and financial struggles for views and engagement. It's become a kind of performance, a show where everyone promises miracles, but very few deliver actual, tangible methods that create real change. I'm not here to add to that noise. What sets this apart is that I'm not asking you to just believe me or take anything on faith. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't build her entire life's work on empty promises. She documented real cases, real people, real transformations that followed specific principles. This isn't about magical thinking. This is about understanding the hidden architecture of how consciousness interacts with physical reality, and more importantly, how you can consciously work with that architecture instead of being at its mercy. Here's the uncomfortable truth that most manifestation teachers won't tell you because it doesn't sound as appealing. There's a reason why most people fail when they try to apply these principles. It's not because the principles don't work. It's because they're being taught incorrectly, incompletely, or by people who don't fully understand the psychological and spiritual foundations that make them effective. The impact of misinformation in this space has created a generation of people who tried manifestation once, didn't see results, and concluded the whole thing was nonsense. But what if the problem wasn't with the principle itself, but with how it was being applied? What if there were specific, precise steps that, when followed correctly, produced consistent results? That's exactly what Florence Scovel Shinn spent her life refining. She understood that transformation doesn't happen through positive thinking alone. It happens through a complete shift in your internal state, your beliefs about what you deserve, and your willingness to follow a method that has been proven through countless real-world applications. The journey I'm taking you on isn't about hoping and wishing. It's about understanding why those hopes and wishes haven't materialized yet, and what specific obstacle has been standing in your way. Most people don't fail because they don't want success badly enough. They fail because they're operating with incomplete information, using techniques that were never designed to work in the first place. The revelation here is that when you have the complete picture, when you understand the actual mechanics behind attracting abundance, the results become almost predictable. Now, I want to show you exactly who Florence Scovel Shinn was and why her approach succeeded where so many others have failed. Because understanding the foundation is what makes everything else click into place. If you felt let down by empty promises before, write in the comments, "I'm ready for truth." Florence Scovel Shinn wasn't a guru or a self-proclaimed spiritual teacher trying to sell courses. She was an artist, an illustrator, someone who approached life with a creative mind, but also with a deep curiosity about why certain people seemed to effortlessly attract opportunities, while others struggled, despite working just as hard. Her journey into understanding abundance consciousness began with her own personal transformations, and the remarkable patterns she started noticing in the lives of those around her. What made her work revolutionary was her meticulous approach. She didn't just share feel-good stories or anecdotal evidence. Florence documented case after case, recording specific amounts of money that appeared in people's lives, noting the exact circumstances under which these manifestations occurred, and, most importantly, identifying the precise mental and emotional states that preceded these financial breakthroughs. Her books aren't filled with vague inspiration. They're filled with documented evidence of people attracting specific sums at exactly the moment they needed them most. Around the same time, on a completely different path, Carl Jung was revolutionizing psychology by exploring the deeper layers of human consciousness. Jung wasn't interested in surface-level behavior. He wanted to understand the hidden mechanisms behind why things happen, why certain people cross our paths, why opportunities appear at specific moments. His discovery of synchronicity changed everything we thought we knew about coincidence. He proved, through thousands of documented cases, that meaningful coincidences aren't random accidents, but evidence of a deeper intelligence operating beneath the surface of our everyday awareness. When you bring together Jung's understanding of synchronicity with Florence Scovel Shinn's practical methods for working with consciousness, you get something extraordinarily powerful. You get a complete system that explains not just why abundance flows to certain people, but exactly how to position yourself to become one of those people. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophical speculation. This is based on observable patterns that have been documented, studied, and verified across countless real-world cases. If this video shifted something inside you, if you felt that spark of recognition when certain ideas landed, hit that like button. It's a simple way to acknowledge that this message found you at exactly the right time. The hidden truth that both Jung and Shinn discovered independently is that your consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it actively participates in creating it. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, every expectation you carry is sending out a signal that the universe responds to with matching circumstances. This isn't mystical language. This is describing an actual mechanism of how your internal state shapes your external experience. The impact of understanding this cannot be overstated because once you see it, once you truly grasp how this works, you can never unsee it. What Florence Scovel Shinn understood better than almost anyone is that most people are unconsciously creating exactly what they don't want. They're focused on lack, worried about scarcity, expecting disappointment, and then wondering why those exact experiences keep showing up. The transformation happens when you learn to consciously direct your attention, your beliefs, and your expectations in a way that aligns with what you actually want to experience. But here's where it gets really practical, because understanding the theory is only the first step. What matters is knowing the exact method Florence Scovel Shinn used to help people shift from unconscious creation to conscious manifestation. And that method has very specific steps that must be followed in a particular sequence. If you're beginning to see how this all connects, type in the comments. Consciousness creates. What Jung and Shinn both discovered, from completely different angles, is that coincidences aren't some mystical phenomenon that defies explanation. They're actually evidence of a fundamental law of reality that we've simply misunderstood. When you think of someone and they immediately call, when you need information and it appears on your screen, when you're searching for an answer and you stumble upon exactly what you need, that's not luck. That's physics. It's the physics of consciousness interacting with the material world in ways that our traditional scientific models are only beginning to understand. The revelation here is that your mind isn't contained inside your skull. Your consciousness extends beyond your physical body, creating an invisible field of influence that affects what shows up in your experience. This is why, too, people can walk down the same street and have completely different experiences. One sees opportunities everywhere, the other sees obstacles. Same street, same moment in time, but entirely different realities being perceived and attracted. The difference isn't in the external world. The difference is in the internal state each person is broadcasting. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that before you can change what you're attracting, you must first change your state of receptivity. Most people are unconsciously closed off to abundance. They've been conditioned by years of disappointment, rejection, and scarcity to protect themselves by expecting nothing. It's a defense mechanism, a way of avoiding disappointment, but it's also the very thing that blocks the flow of prosperity into their lives. So before we go any deeper into the method, I need you to do something right now. It's simple, but incredibly powerful. Take a deep breath, really fill your lungs, and as you slowly exhale, think these words to yourself: I am open to receiving. That's it. Nothing complicated, no elaborate ritual, no special circumstances required. Just that simple declaration: I am open to receiving. What you just did by following that instruction is more significant than you might realize. You've sent a signal to your subconscious mind that you're willing to let go of defensive resistance and allow something new to enter. The journey of transformation always begins with this kind of opening. This willingness to drop the armor we've built around ourselves. Your subconscious doesn't understand complex philosophy or intellectual arguments. It responds to simple, clear directives, and that phrase is one of the most powerful keys you can use to unlock receptivity. This isn't about convincing yourself of something you don't believe. It's about creating a small crack in the wall of resistance most people have built without even realizing it. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough, every unexpected opportunity, every moment of synchronicity, there's this element of openness, this state of allowing rather than forcing. The impact of that shift in your internal state can't be measured immediately, but it sets everything else in motion. What Florence Scovel Shinn taught is that abundance isn't something you chase or force into existence. It's something you align with, something you become receptive to, something you allow to flow to you. The decisions you make in the next few minutes about whether to remain open or to close back down into skepticism and defense will determine whether the next 7 days bring the transformation that's already trying to reach you. Now I want to take you deeper into understanding why speaking certain words, thinking certain thoughts, has such a profound effect on what manifests in your physical reality. If you felt that shift when you took that breath, comment below. I am open. There's something profoundly powerful about declaring your intentions out loud, about making them public rather than keeping them hidden in the privacy of your own thoughts. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this better than most. She taught that when you speak something into existence, when you claim it publicly, you're doing far more than just saying words. You're activating a mechanism in your subconscious mind that interprets that declaration as a commitment, as a decision that has already been made. Think about it this way. When you tell yourself something privately, there's always a back door, an escape route, a way to retreat if things get uncomfortable. But when you declare something publicly, even in something as simple as a comment on a video, you're putting a stake in the ground. You're telling your deeper mind that this isn't just wishful thinking or idle fantasy. This is real. This matters. This is happening. The transformation from private hope to public declaration changes the entire energy behind your intention. This is why I'm going to invite you to do something that might feel a little vulnerable, maybe even a bit risky, but it's precisely that slight edge of discomfort that makes it so effective. The hidden truth is that growth always happens at the edge of your comfort zone, never in the center of it. What you're about to do is signal to the universe, to your subconscious, and to yourself that you're serious about this journey. Carl Jung spent decades studying what he called synchronicity, and what he discovered changed how we understand the relationship between mind and matter. Jung noticed that his patients would often experience meaningful coincidences at crucial moments in their therapeutic journey. They would dream about something and then encounter it in waking life. They would think of a symbol, and it would appear on their doorstep. These weren't random accidents. These were evidence that the human mind has the ability to influence external reality in ways that defy our conventional understanding of cause and effect. Synchronicity isn't magic. It's a natural law that operates whether we're aware of it or not. Every thought you think creates a subtle ripple in the field of consciousness that surrounds you. Most of these ripples are weak, contradictory, scattered. But when you focus your intention, when you declare something with clarity and conviction, those ripples become waves. They become strong enough to actually move things in the physical world, to attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that match the frequency you're broadcasting. The impact of understanding this principle is immense because it means you're never truly powerless. Even when external circumstances seem completely beyond your control, you always have control over your internal state, over the signal you're sending out, over the energy you're broadcasting into the world around you. This is the foundation of everything Florence Scovel Shinn taught. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control how you position yourself in relationship to what you want. Now, I want to show you exactly how to harness synchronicity deliberately, rather than experiencing it randomly, because that's where the real transformation happens. If this is resonating deeply with you, leave a comment saying, "Synchronicity guides me." Think back to the last time you were thinking about someone you hadn't heard from in months, and suddenly your phone buzzed with a message from them. Or remember when you were struggling with a problem and you overheard a conversation that contained exactly the answer you needed. Maybe you've experienced turning on the radio right as a song that perfectly captured your emotional state started playing. These moments aren't flukes or statistical coincidences. They're synchronicity revealing itself, showing you that the boundary between your inner world and outer reality is far more permeable than you've been taught to believe. The fact that you're here right now, watching this video about Florence Scovel Shinn and abundance consciousness at this exact moment in your life, is itself an act of synchronicity. Something in your consciousness sent out a signal that you were ready for this information, and the universe responded by guiding you here. That's not poetic language. That's describing the actual mechanism of how your attention gets directed toward what your deeper self knows you need, where Carl Jung gave us the theory and the intellectual framework for understanding synchronicity. Florence Scovel Shinn did something even more valuable. She took those complex psychological concepts and turned them into a practical system that anyone could use regardless of their education level or spiritual background. Her genius was in simplification without dilution, in making profound truths accessible without making them shallow. Shinn's methods weren't about sitting around visualizing all day or repeating affirmations mindlessly until your brain turned to mush. She understood that real transformation requires specific techniques applied in a specific way. Her approach was almost scientific in its precision. She identified the exact mental and emotional states that preceded manifestation, the specific words that activated the subconscious most effectively, and the particular actions that signaled to the universe you were serious about what you were claiming. What makes her system so powerful is that it accounts for the hidden obstacles most people don't even know they have. You can say affirmations all day long, but if there's a deeper belief underneath that contradicts what you're affirming, you're essentially driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Florence Scovel Shinn's method addresses those hidden contradictions first, clearing the path so that when you do declare your intentions, there's nothing blocking them from manifesting. The journey she mapped out isn't complicated, but it does require precision. Every step builds on the previous one, creating momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. The impact of following her method correctly is that you stop experiencing abundance as random luck and start experiencing it as a reliable response to your internal state. That shift from hoping and wishing to knowing and expecting changes everything. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough Florence Scovel Shinn documented, there was this same pattern. A person learned to align their conscious desires with their subconscious beliefs, eliminating the internal conflict that had been sabotaging them all along. Once that alignment happened, money didn't have to be chased or forced. It simply showed up, often from completely unexpected sources. Now, I want to walk you through the core principle that makes all of this work, The one truth that Florence Scovel Shinn said was more important than any technique or method. If you're feeling the shift happening inside you right now, right, I am aligning. Here's the core principle that changes everything, and it's probably the opposite of what you've been told. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered something that most people find uncomfortable at first because it puts full responsibility back in their hands. She taught that you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Read that again slowly because it's the hidden truth behind every manifestation teaching that actually works. This means that all the wishing, hoping, and desperate wanting in the world won't bring you abundance if your internal state is one of lack, scarcity, and unworthiness. You can say you want money all day long, but if deep down you feel poor, if your identity is wrapped up in struggle and limitation, if you carry yourself with the energy of someone who never has enough, then that's exactly what you'll continue to attract. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because you're broadcasting a signal that says this is who I am, and reality simply responds by matching that signal. The transformation happens when you stop trying to get what you want and start becoming the person who already has it. This isn't about pretending or faking it. This is about genuinely shifting your internal state, your sense of identity, your energetic frequency to match the reality you desire. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that your external circumstances are always a perfect mirror of your internal state, and the only way to change what's reflected back is to change what's happening inside. Now here's where the science gets fascinating. Your subconscious mind, that powerful processor running behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's actually happening in physical reality. This isn't mystical thinking. This is neuroscience. When you imagine something with enough sensory detail and emotional intensity, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if that experience were actually occurring. What this means practically is profound. If you can make yourself genuinely feel wealthy right now, if you can inhabit the emotional state of someone who has more than enough, if you can embody the confidence and ease of a person who knows money flows to them easily, your subconscious mind will accept that as reality and immediately begin working to make your external circumstances match that internal feeling. It doesn't question whether it's real or imagined. It simply responds to the signal you're giving it. The journey from where you are financially to where you want to be isn't about working harder or finding some secret opportunity. It's about making decisions from a different internal state, acting from a different sense of identity, carrying yourself with a different energy. The impact of that shift ripples out in ways you can't consciously plan or predict, attracting opportunities, ideas, people, and circumstances that align with who you're being, not what you're wanting. Behind the scenes, your subconscious is constantly scanning your environment for matches to your internal state. When you feel abundant, it notices abundance everywhere and draws it toward you. When you feel lacking, it confirms that lack at every turn. This is why two people can be in the exact same situation and have completely different outcomes. Now, I want to reveal exactly why your subconscious brought you to this message right now and what that says about what's already in motion for you. If you're ready to embody this new state, comment, "I am abundant now." Florence Scovel Shinn taught something that might sound strange at first, but becomes obvious once you understand how the subconscious operates. Your conscious mind, the part of you that's reading these words right now and processing this information logically, isn't actually the one making the big decisions in your life. That honor belongs to your subconscious, that vast intelligence operating beneath your awareness, constantly scanning, calculating, and guiding you toward what it knows you need. Your subconscious brought you here. It recognized something in the title, in the thumbnail, in the energy of this message that signaled, this is important. This is what you need right now. Your conscious mind might think you randomly clicked on this video, but nothing about this moment is random. Your deeper awareness already knows that money is on its way to you, and it guided you here so your conscious mind could catch up to what's already been set in motion on a level you can't directly perceive. This is the revelation that most people miss entirely. They think manifestation is about convincing the universe to give them something they don't have. But the truth is far more elegant than that. The universe has already responded to your signal. The money, the opportunity, the breakthrough you need is already moving toward you. Finding this video is proof of that movement. You're not here by accident. You're here because your subconscious recognized this as a marker, a signpost indicating you're on the right path and the destination is close. Now, let me explain why the 7-day window isn't some arbitrary number I pulled out of thin air. Carl Jung's research on synchronicity revealed something fascinating about timing. He discovered that meaningful coincidences often appear just before significant events manifest in physical reality. It's as if consciousness can sense what's about to happen and sends signals, omens, markers that something important is approaching. The 7-day time frame represents the natural cycle it takes for something that exists in potential form in the realm of consciousness to crystallize into physical manifestation. Think of it like a seed that's been planted. You can't see anything happening on the surface for days, but beneath the soil, invisible processes are at work, roots are forming, energy is building. Then suddenly, seemingly overnight, the sprout breaks through the surface. That's not random timing. That's the completion of a precise sequence that was happening all along. The hidden mechanics behind this window involve your subconscious mind coordinating with the field of consciousness around you, arranging circumstances, drawing the right people and opportunities into your orbit, preparing you to recognize and receive what's coming. The journey from internal shift to external manifestation follows consistent patterns, and 7 days represents the sweet spot where intention has had enough time to build momentum but hasn't been diluted by doubt and overthinking. The decisions you make during this window matter enormously. Every thought, every word, every action is either reinforcing the signal you're sending out or contradicting it. The impact of maintaining alignment during these 7 days determines whether the breakthrough that's already in motion reaches you with full force or gets weakened and delayed. Now, I want to show you exactly what you can expect to happen over these 7 days and the specific signs that will confirm you're on track. If you're feeling the truth of this timing, right below, my time is now. Within the next 7 days, your financial reality is going to shift in one of 3 specific ways. You might receive unexpected cash from a source you had completely forgotten about, maybe a tax refund that finally processed, a bonus you weren't expecting, or money from an old account you thought was closed. Or perhaps a financial opportunity will appear seemingly out of nowhere. Someone offering you work, a business idea that suddenly clicks, a connection that opens a door you didn't even know existed. The third possibility is that someone who owes you money, someone you had written off and stopped thinking about, will suddenly reach out and repay what they owe. These aren't vague predictions. These are the most common patterns Florence Scovel Shinn documented across thousands of cases. The hidden truth is that money is always trying to reach you. It's flowing constantly through the universe, looking for willing receivers, and when you remove the internal blocks and align your consciousness properly, you become one of those receivers. The journey isn't about creating money out of nothing. It's about positioning yourself to receive what's already flowing in your direction, but has been blocked by your own resistance. But here's what you need to understand. This doesn't happen automatically just because you watch this video or nodded along with these ideas. There's a specific method that must be followed, and Florence Scovel Shinn spent years perfecting it until she could produce consistent, repeatable results. She called it scientific prayer, and the name itself tells you something important. This isn't religious prayer where you're begging some external deity to grant you favors. This is a precise psychological technique that activates your subconscious mind in a very specific way. Scientific prayer means you're not asking for what you want. You're declaring what is already yours. You're claiming what exists in potential form and calling it into physical manifestation through the power of your conviction and belief. The transformation happens when you stop approaching abundance from a place of neediness and start approaching it from a place of ownership. You're not hoping money will come. You're acknowledging that it's already on its way because you've aligned yourself with the frequency of wealth. Most people pray from lack. They say things like, "Please send me money, I really need this, I hope something changes." Every word in those statements reinforces the current reality of not having. Scientific prayer works from the opposite direction. You speak as if the thing is already done, already yours, already manifesting. The impact of that shift in language creates an entirely different signal in your subconscious and in the field of consciousness around you. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that your words carry creative power, but only when they're backed by genuine feeling and expectation. Behind the scenes of every successful manifestation she documented, there was this element of absolute certainty, this unshakable knowing that what was being claimed was already real on some level and was simply making its way into physical form. Decisions you make about how you speak to yourself and about yourself during these next 7 days will either accelerate this process or stall it completely. Your internal dialogue is constantly programming your subconscious, and scientific prayer gives you a tool to reprogram deliberately rather than accidentally. Now, I want to give you the exact words and the precise technique Florence Scovel Shinn used to help people activate this process, because knowing the theory isn't enough. If you're ready to claim what's yours, comment, "It is already done." The moment you finish watching this video, I want you to do something specific. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted for just 3 minutes. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and mentally repeat these exact words. Money flows to me from expected and unexpected sources. I am a magnet for abundance. I receive this gratefully. 3 minutes. That's all. But those 3 minutes represent the beginning of a profound transformation in how your subconscious processes wealth and your relationship to it. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that repetition of specific phrases during a relaxed state creates new neural pathways in your brain. You're not chanting magic words, hoping the universe will hear you and take pity. That's not how any of this works. What you're actually doing is far more practical and grounded in how the human mind operates. You're retraining your brain to accept a new identity, a new set of beliefs about who you are and what you deserve. Most people carry programming from childhood, from their parents' struggles, from society's messages about scarcity and limitation. These programs run automatically in the background of your consciousness, sabotaging every attempt you make to improve your financial situation. You can work harder, learn more skills, create better opportunities, but if the underlying programming says you're not worthy of wealth, or that money is evil or that rich, people are greedy, you'll unconsciously sabotage yourself every single time. The hidden truth that Florence Scovel Shinn understood is that you can't overcome bad programming with willpower or positive thinking alone. You have to actually replace the old code with new code, and that requires consistent, deliberate repetition in a receptive mental state. When your mind is relaxed, when you're not fighting or forcing, the subconscious becomes permeable. It accepts new suggestions without the critical filter that normally blocks them. This isn't about manipulating external forces or convincing some cosmic consciousness to change the rules for you. This is about changing your internal operating system so that when opportunities appear, you recognize them. When money flows toward you, you're open to receiving it. When abundance presents itself, you don't unconsciously push it away with self-sabotage or feelings of unworthiness. The impact of this internal shift cannot be overstated because it affects every decision you make, every action you take, every interaction you have. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, your subconscious is constantly making thousands of micro-decisions about what to notice, what to ignore, what feels safe, what feels dangerous. When your programming says wealth is dangerous or undeserved, your subconscious will steer you away from it, even while your conscious mind desperately wants it. That internal conflict is why so many people work incredibly hard but never seem to get ahead financially. They're driving with the emergency brake on, and they don't even realize it. The journey over these next 7 days is about releasing that brake, about giving your subconscious permission to actually accept and attract the wealth you consciously desire. These 3 minutes of repetition today are planting seeds in fertile soil. You won't see the results immediately, and that's exactly as it should be. Transformation happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Now, I want to show you what needs to happen on days 2 through 6 to build momentum and keep this process moving forward without interference. If you're committed to this practice, right, I am reprogramming now. For the next 5 mornings, days 2 through 6, I need you to establish a new ritual that might feel strange at first, but becomes incredibly powerful through repetition. The moment you wake up, before you reach for your phone, before you check messages or scroll through news, before you let the world rush in with its demands and distractions, I want you to say this to yourself. I give thanks for the money that is on its way to me. I feel it is already mine. Notice the language Florence Scovel Shinn chose here. You're not asking for money. You're not hoping it will come. You're giving thanks for something that hasn't physically arrived yet, as if it already belongs to you. This creates a feeling state of possession before manifestation. And that feeling is what your subconscious responds to most powerfully. When you genuinely feel wealthy, when you embody the emotional state of someone who has more than enough, your entire energy shifts, and the decisions you make throughout that day will be different than if you started from a place of lack and worry. The hidden truth is that most people sabotage their mornings by immediately checking their bank account or diving into stressful news or comparing themselves to others on social media. They're programming their consciousness with scarcity, anxiety, and inadequacy before they've even gotten out of bed. The journey toward abundance requires you to protect your mental state, especially in those first vulnerable moments after waking when your subconscious is most impressionable. But there's another practice that Florence Scovel Shinn taught that almost nobody talks about, and it's deceptively simple yet profoundly effective. During days 2 through 6, every single time you encounter money in any form, you're going to do something specific. When you see a coin on the ground, when you pull cash from your wallet, when you notice prices on products, even when you see numbers representing money on a screen, I want you to touch it if possible, or simply look at it and think these words: more is coming. This technique is brilliant because it hijacks your natural tendency to notice money and transforms each moment of noticing into a reinforcement of abundance consciousness. Most people see money and immediately think about how little they have or how much they need or how quickly it disappears. They're training their brain to associate money with scarcity and stress. What you're doing instead is training your brain to see every encounter with money as evidence that more is on the way, that money is everywhere, that you're surrounded by abundance. The impact of this practice accumulates over days. Each time you do it, you're creating a small shift in your neural pathways, a tiny adjustment in how your subconscious perceives and relates to wealth. Individually, these moments might seem insignificant, but collectively, they create a massive transformation in your underlying beliefs. Behind the scenes, your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters what you notice in your environment, starts highlighting opportunities and possibilities related to money that were always there but you were previously blind to. This isn't positive thinking for its own sake. This is strategic reprogramming of your attention and your associations. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that you can't force abundance into your life, but you can remove the blocks that have been keeping it out. And one of the biggest blocks is the habit of seeing money through the lens of scarcity rather than the lens of flow. Now I want to address the most critical mistake that will completely derail this entire process if you're not careful. And it's something both Jung and Florence Scovel Shinn warned about specifically. If you're already noticing abundance around you differently, comment, "Abundance surrounds me." What you're doing with this practice of acknowledging money every time you encounter it is fundamentally rewiring your relationship with abundance. For most of your life, you've been conditioned to see money as scarce, limited, hard to come by. Every message from society, every struggle your parents may have faced, every Bill that arrived unexpectedly has reinforced the belief that there's never enough. That belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because your subconscious mind creates experiences that match your deepest convictions. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that scarcity thinking is the single biggest obstacle preventing people from attracting wealth. It's not that they don't work hard enough, or lack intelligence, or miss opportunities. It's that they're operating from a fundamental belief that abundance is rare and difficult, and that belief colors every decision they make. The transformation happens when you genuinely shift from scarcity consciousness to abundance awareness, and that shift doesn't happen through intellectual understanding alone. It happens through consistent practice that gradually convinces your subconscious that money is everywhere, flowing constantly, and accessible to you. By day 7, something remarkable happens. This is when the actual shift crystallizes. When all the internal work you've been doing over the previous 6 days suddenly manifests in your external reality. But here's where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They get fixated on exactly how the money should arrive. They start obsessively checking for lottery results, or waiting for a specific person to pay them back, or expecting their boss to suddenly offer a raise. That fixation actually limits the universe's ability to deliver. The hidden truth is that abundance is infinitely creative in how it reaches you. The universe might send money through a channel you never considered, an opportunity you didn't see coming, a connection that seems completely unrelated to finances but opens a door you didn't know existed. Your job isn't to control the how. Your job is to stay open, stay receptive, and trust that the method of delivery will be perfect for your specific situation. Florence Scovel Shinn saw this pattern repeatedly. Someone would do all the internal work, correctly, align their consciousness with abundance, but then limit their manifestation by insisting it had to come through one specific channel. The moment they released that attachment to method and simply remained open to however it wanted to arrive, the breakthrough would happen, often in the most unexpected and delightful ways. The journey through day 7 requires you to maintain everything you've been doing, but add this crucial element of complete openness. No controlling, no forcing, no obsessing over specific outcomes. Just a calm, confident expectation that what you've claimed is already yours and will reveal itself in perfect timing through the perfect channel. The impact of that surrendered state is immense because it removes the final block, the need to control and manage every detail. Behind the scenes, synchronicity is orchestrating circumstances you can't see yet. People are thinking about you who might offer opportunities. Systems are processing refunds or payments in your name. Ideas are forming that will lead to income streams. But all of that can only reach you if you're not blocking it with rigid expectations about how it must look. Now I want to reveal the one mistake that will cancel this entire process, something both Carl Jung and Florence Scovel Shinn warned about with absolute seriousness. If you're willing to stay open to unexpected blessings, right, I release control and receive. The universe operates with a level of creativity and intelligence that far exceeds our limited human imagination. When you open yourself to receiving abundance, you're essentially giving permission for life to surprise you in ways you never could have orchestrated yourself. The money might come through a friend who suddenly remembers they owe you something. It might arrive as an unexpected refund from years ago. It could manifest as a stranger offering you an opportunity that perfectly matches your skills. The possibilities are literally endless, and that's exactly why trying to control the method is such a limiting decision. Florence Scovel Shinn documented cases where people received abundance through the most unlikely channels imaginable. Someone found a valuable item they'd forgotten about. Another person had a debt forgiven unexpectedly. Yet another stumbled into a business partnership through what seemed like a random conversation at a coffee shop. The hidden truth is that synchronicity works through whatever pathway offers the least resistance and the most elegance, and that pathway is rarely the one we would consciously choose. Your responsibility during these 7 days is to stay alert, stay present, and notice what's showing up differently in your life. Pay attention to conversations that mention money or opportunities. Notice when people reach out to you unexpectedly. Be aware of ideas that suddenly pop into your mind. These aren't random events. They're the universe responding to the signal you've been sending, delivering what you've claimed through whatever channel is most available. But now, I need to warn you about the one mistake that will absolutely sabotage this entire process. And I cannot stress this enough. Both Carl Jung and Florence Scovel Shinn were adamant about this point. You must not tell anyone what you're doing. Not your spouse, not your best friend, not your family members. This process must remain completely private until after the money manifests. The moment you share your intention, prematurely, you weaken its power dramatically. Here's why this is so critical. When you tell other people about your manifestation practice, you're inviting their doubts, their skepticism, their limiting beliefs into your consciousness. Even people who love you and want the best for you will unconsciously project their own fears and limitations onto your dreams. They'll say things like, "That sounds nice, but be realistic," or "I tried that once and it didn't work," or "You should probably have a backup plan." Every one of those comments plants a seed of doubt in your mind, and doubt is poison to manifestation. The journey of transformation requires protection, especially in its early stages. Florence Scovel Shinn used a perfect analogy. A seed must grow in darkness beneath the soil. If you kept digging it up to show people, "Look what I'm growing," it would never develop roots or break through the surface. Your intention needs that same protected darkness to develop strength. The impact of premature sharing is that you dissipate the energy before it has a chance to build to the critical mass required for physical manifestation. Behind the scenes of your consciousness, every time you talk about what you're manifesting, you're essentially asking for permission or validation from others, which signals to your subconscious that you don't fully believe it yourself. That doubt, even if it's subtle, creates interference in the signal you're broadcasting. The most powerful manifestations happen in complete silence, protected from the opinions and judgments of the external world. Now, I want to show you exactly what signs to watch for over these 7 days so you know you're on track and the process is working. If you're committed to keeping this sacred and silent, comment, "I protect my vision." Think about what happens when you share something precious and fragile with someone who doesn't understand its value. Their casual dismissal or well-meaning skepticism can crush something that was just beginning to take form inside you. This is precisely what happens when you talk about your manifestation practice too early. You're not just sharing information, you're exposing a delicate process to forces that can damage it before it's strong enough to withstand scrutiny. Other people's doubts aren't just opinions that bounce off you harmlessly. They're energetic frequencies that can actually infiltrate your consciousness if you're not careful. When someone you trust tells you to be realistic or warns you not to get your hopes up, they're injecting their own fear and limitation directly into your mental space. Even if you consciously reject their words, your subconscious absorbs them, and suddenly you've got conflicting signals running through your system. Part of you is believing in the abundance that's coming, while another part is now questioning whether it's really possible. The hidden truth that Florence Scovel Shinn understood is that manifestation isn't a solo process happening in isolation. You're constantly exchanging energy with everyone around you, and their beliefs can influence your reality if you allow them access during vulnerable stages. The journey toward financial breakthrough requires you to be fiercely protective of your internal state, especially when others mean well but carry their own baggage about money and possibility. This is why Shinn used that beautiful analogy of the seed growing in dark soil. Imagine planting a seed and then, out of excitement or impatience, digging it up every day to show your friends and family. "Look, I planted something amazing." Every time you disturb that seed, you'd damage the delicate roots trying to form. You'd expose it to air and light before it was ready. You'd essentially guarantee it would never grow into what it was meant to become. Your intention during these 7 days is exactly like that seed. It's been planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious, Mind. The transformation is happening beneath the surface where you can't see it yet. Roots of possibility are forming. Energy is building. Circumstances are aligning. But all of that requires darkness, silence, and protection from interference. The impact of keeping this process private cannot be overstated because it allows the full force of your intention to build without leaking away through premature sharing. Behind the scenes, something remarkable is happening when you maintain silence. Your entire being commits more fully because you're not seeking external validation. Your subconscious takes the goal more seriously because you're not treating it as casual conversation. The universe responds more powerfully because there's no conflicting energy diluting your signal. Silence isn't just a suggestion. It's a critical component of the method itself. Once the money actually arrives, once you're holding that check or seeing those numbers in your account, then you can celebrate. However you want. You can share the story, inspire others, express gratitude publicly. But until that moment of physical manifestation, your work is to guard this process like the precious, fragile thing it is. Now, I want to show you the specific signs that will appear during these 7 days, the markers that confirm you're on the right track and the breakthrough is approaching. If you understand the power of sacred silence, write, "My success is silent until it speaks." The beauty of this process is that once the money actually manifests, once it's physically in your hands or your account, all that protective silence transforms into joyful celebration. At that point, you can share your story with anyone who will listen. You can inspire others, express your gratitude publicly, and let the world know what happened. But until that moment arrives, your only job is to protect the process with absolute commitment, treating your intention as the most precious and fragile thing you possess. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the manifestation process follows a predictable pattern, and if you know what to look for, you can actually track your progress toward the breakthrough. In the first 48 hours after you start this practice, you're going to notice small signs that most people would dismiss as coincidence, but are actually evidence that your consciousness is beginning to shift and the universe is responding. You might start seeing repeating numbers everywhere. The clock shows 11:11 or 3:33 right when you happen to glance at it. Your receipt total comes to a number sequence that catches your attention. These aren't random glitches in the matrix. Carl Jung explained that repeating numbers are one of the ways synchronicity announces itself, a gentle tap on the shoulder from your subconscious saying, "Pay attention, something is shifting." You'll probably overhear conversations about money at the exact moment you were thinking about finances. You'll be sitting in a cafe mentally repeating your abundance affirmation, and the people at the next table will start discussing an investment opportunity or a raise they just received. That's not coincidence. That's your consciousness tuning into the frequency of abundance and suddenly noticing what was always there, but you were previously blind to. The hidden truth is that these small signs aren't the main event. They're what Jung called the opening act, the preliminary signals that prepare you for something bigger coming. The transformation doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fireworks right away. It begins with whispers, with subtle shifts in your environment, with small synchronicities that build confidence and momentum. The impact of recognizing these signs is that they strengthen your belief, and belief is the fuel that powers manifestation. Behind the scenes, your reticular activating system is being recalibrated. This is the part of your brain that filters reality, deciding what's important enough to bring to your conscious attention and what to ignore. For most of your life, it's been filtering out abundance and highlighting scarcity because that matched your underlying beliefs. Now, as those beliefs shift through your daily practice, your brain is literally beginning to notice different aspects of reality. The journey through these first 2 days is about building trust in the process. Each small sign confirms that something real is happening, that this isn't just wishful thinking or imagination. Florence Scovel Shinn knew that people need tangible evidence to keep going, especially when the big manifestation hasn't arrived yet. Now, I want to reveal what happens on days 3 and 4. because this is where most people either solidify their breakthrough or unknowingly sabotage it. If you're already noticing these small signs, comment, "The signs are appearing." By the time you reach days 3 and 4, something remarkable happens that most people don't expect. The anxious energy that drove you to search for financial solutions in the first place begins to dissolve. That constant background hum of worry about bills, about security, about whether you'll have enough starts to fade. In its place, you'll feel something that might seem almost strange, given your current circumstances. A sense of peace, a quiet confidence that has no logical explanation, but feels absolutely certain. This is one of the most powerful indicators that Florence Scovel Shinn identified. When your deep mind, your subconscious, truly accepts that something is already done, it stops worrying. It stops frantically searching for solutions because it knows the solution is already in motion. The transformation you feel during these middle days isn't passive relaxation. It's the profound calm of knowing, the same way you know the sun will rise tomorrow. You don't worry about it. You don't question it. You simply trust the natural order of things. Most people misinterpret this peace as complacency or giving up, but it's actually the opposite. It's your consciousness reaching a state of alignment where there's no internal conflict anymore. Your conscious desires and your subconscious beliefs are finally pointing in the same direction. And when that happens, the energy that was being wasted in internal struggle becomes available for manifestation. The impact of this inner alignment cannot be overstated because it removes the final resistance between you and what you're claiming. Then, as you move into days 5 and 6, the external world begins responding in ways that will probably surprise you. Opportunities that were completely invisible to you before will suddenly appear obvious. Someone at work might mention a project that needs help, and you realize you're perfectly positioned to take it on. A friend might casually suggest an idea that sparks something in your mind. You might be scrolling through your phone and see an opportunity you've scrolled past 100 times before, but this time it catches your attention and you think, "Why didn't I notice this earlier?" The hidden truth is that these opportunities were always there. The universe doesn't create new circumstances out of nothing. It reveals what was already present but hidden from your awareness because you weren't vibrating at the right frequency to perceive it. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that when your consciousness shifts, your perception shifts with it, and suddenly you're living in what feels like a different reality even though the external world hasn't changed. What changed was you. Behind the scenes, synchronicity is working overtime during these days, arranging circumstances, coordinating timing, bringing the right people and the right information into your orbit at exactly the right moments. You might receive a call from someone you haven't heard from in years. You might stumble across an article that contains the exact information you needed. You might overhear a conversation that gives you an idea that leads to income. None of this is random. This is the universe responding to the signal you've been broadcasting consistently for almost a week. The journey through days 5 and 6 requires you to stay alert and say yes to opportunities even when they don't look exactly how you expected. Sometimes the breakthrough comes disguised as something small or unrelated to money directly, but it's actually the first domino that sets a chain of events in motion. Now, I want to prepare you for day 7, because this is when everything you've been building culminates in physical manifestation. If you're feeling opportunities opening around you, right, I see the path forming. Day 7 is when everything you've been cultivating over the past week crystallizes into physical form. The money arrives. It might come as a direct deposit you weren't expecting. It could be a check in the mail from a source you'd forgotten about. Someone might hand you cash as repayment for something you'd written off long ago. You might receive a gift, a refund, a bonus, or discover money in an old account. The method doesn't matter at all. What matters is that it manifests exactly as your subconscious has been quietly arranging behind the scenes for the past 6 days. Florence Scovel Shinn documented this pattern so many times that she stopped being surprised by it. People would follow the method precisely, maintain their silence, keep their consciousness aligned, and on or around the seventh day, money would appear. Not because she was some magical guru channeling cosmic forces, but because she understood how consciousness works and taught people to work with it deliberately rather than accidentally. This is where we need to be absolutely clear about what's really happening here. This isn't magic. This isn't luck. This isn't some mystical force bending reality to your will. What Carl Jung and Florence Scovel Shinn spent their entire lives proving is that this is a universal law, as reliable and consistent as gravity or thermodynamics. When you understand how consciousness interacts with physical reality and apply specific principles correctly, you get predictable results. The transformation you experience isn't supernatural. It's natural law being properly utilized. Jung approached this from psychology, studying how the unconscious mind operates and how it influences what we perceive and attract in our external environment. Shinn approached it from spiritual metaphysics, understanding that thought is creative and that belief shapes experience. They were describing the same phenomenon from different angles, and both arrived at the same conclusion. You are not a passive observer of reality. You are an active participant in creating it through your consciousness. The hidden truth that modern science is only beginning to validate is that observation affects outcome at the quantum level, and consciousness plays a fundamental role in collapsing probability into actuality. This isn't woo-woo speculation anymore. This is being explored seriously in fields like quantum physics and consciousness studies. What Florence Scovel Shinn knew intuitively, science is now beginning to prove empirically. Your attention, your expectation, your belief actually influences what manifests in your experience. The impact of understanding this shifts everything because it means you're never truly powerless. Even when circumstances seem completely beyond your control, you always have the ability to shift your consciousness, and when your consciousness shifts, your reality must eventually shift to match it. The journey you've been on these past 7 days is about learning to use this law deliberately, consciously, with precision. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough, every unexpected opportunity, every moment of perfect timing, this same principle is operating. Most people experience it randomly, catching occasional lucky breaks without understanding why. What you're learning is how to trigger it intentionally, how to position yourself as a conscious creator rather than a passive victim of circumstance. Now, I want to address what happens after day 7. Because the real mastery isn't just manifesting money once, but understanding how to make this a consistent pattern in your life. If you're ready to claim your breakthrough, right, money is arriving now. Carl Jung once said something that fundamentally changed how I understand life, and once you truly grasp it, you'll never see your circumstances the same way again. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Read that again slowly because it contains the key to everything we've been discussing. Your life isn't being decided by random chance, by luck, by forces beyond your control. It's being directed by your own unconscious patterns, beliefs and programming that you've never examined or challenged. Most people go through their entire lives being controlled by beliefs they absorbed before they were old enough to question them. Beliefs about money from parents who struggled. Beliefs about worthiness from authority figures who projected their own limitations. Beliefs about what's possible from a society that benefits from keeping people small and manageable. These unconscious programs run in the background like software you never installed, but somehow ended up on your hard drive, and they create your reality day after day while you think it's all just fate or bad luck. The transformation that's happening right now as you absorb this message is that you're making the unconscious conscious. You're bringing awareness to patterns that have been running your life without your permission. That awareness itself is the beginning of freedom, because once you see the programs, once you understand the hidden mechanics, you can't unsee them. You become the conscious creator of your experience rather than the unconscious victim of your conditioning. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that awareness alone isn't enough. Awareness must be followed by decision, by commitment, by a declaration that says, I'm choosing differently now. This is why the act of publicly declaring your intention is so powerful. It's not about convincing me or anyone else. It's about making a commitment to yourself that's witnessed, that's real, that can't be taken back or denied later when doubt creeps in. The hidden truth is that most people never fully commit. They keep one foot in their old reality while tentatively reaching for something new, and that divided energy ensures nothing changes. The journey from where you are to where you want to be requires a clean break, a clear decision, a moment where you say yes without reservation. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough in someone's life, there was a moment of commitment, point where they stopped hedging their bets and went all in. When you leave a comment declaring your acceptance of abundance, you're doing far more than typing words on a screen. You're creating a timestamp, a moment you can point back to and say, this is when everything changed. You're putting energy into motion. You're sending a signal to your subconscious that this matters, that you're serious, that you're ready. The impact of that single action ripples out in ways you can't immediately measure, but will become obvious as your reality begins shifting to match your declaration. Now, I want to show you what to do after the money arrives, because that moment is actually just the beginning of something much bigger. If you're ready to make this commitment, if you're ready to sign your agreement with abundance, comment below. I accept the abundance that is already mine. You've made it to the end, and that alone tells me something important about you. Most people would have clicked away in the first minute, but you stayed, you listened, you absorbed. That persistence, that willingness to stay present for the full message is exactly the quality that attracts breakthrough. Florence Scovel Shinn would have recognized you immediately as someone who's genuinely ready for transformation. If this message landed with you, if something inside you shifted while you were watching, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. I'm here consistently, bringing you teachings from pioneers like Florence Scovel Shinn, Carl Jung, and others who understood how consciousness actually works. This isn't surface-level motivation. This is deep work that creates lasting change, and if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place. Leave a comment below saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you made it all the way through." When I see those comments, it tells me this content is reaching the people who need it most, and it encourages me to keep creating these deeper explorations of how reality actually operates. And if you found value here, if something clicked for you during this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps this message find others who are searching for exactly what you just discovered. There's another video that builds on what we discussed today, and I think you'll find it incredibly valuable. It goes deeper into the specific techniques Florence Scovel Shinn used to maintain abundance consciousness even during challenging times. Click on it and continue this journey with me. I'll see you there.